Okay, we are reaching the end of our Christmas lunch and looking for the Christmas pudding. We have a fantastic alternative to a normal Christmas pudding. And the beautiful thing about this is it can be prepared well in advance. It could be a few days, it could be a week in advance. It means that you've got one less thing to worry about when you're doing all your prep and something magnificent to serve at the end of the fantastic lunch you've just prepared. We're going to serve it with an incredibly decadent sauce as an alternative to custard. I'm going to hand you over to Chef Mark and he will explain more.
Thank you, Chef Paul. And here I have a beautiful butterscotch sauce. So I have equal quantities of double cream, salted butter, muscovado sugar and dark rum. All you do, everything into a pan all measured up, onto the heat and just slowly bring it up. Now you don't want to boil this, it will start to spit and be very dangerous. You've got that hot sugar that will heat to an incredibly high temperature and burn you. So as soon as you start seeing some life, some bubbles a simmer, keep it at that stage or just reduce the heat down. What you want to do is just reduce the heat and just reduce the sauce down slightly in viscosity, and that way when we're pouring it over this beautiful, beautiful pudding, it's just going to coat it and it'll be absolutely delicious and it will match all those wonderful flavours that Chef Paul's got within the pudding. So I'll pass you back over to Chef.
Thank you. So we are doing you a chocolate and cardamom Christmas pudding. This is a fantastic recipe that has been donated by one of our good friends, Colin Wheeler-James at Ground Up Cookery. And it is a truly magnificent alternative to a traditional Christmas pudding. So in here we have some dark brown muscovado and some sugar. And we're just going to get this beating and get it nice and pale and fluffy, and we start adding the eggs. So if you want to use an eggless version of this, if you want to make this vegan or vegetarian, then you can use something like soaked chia seeds that have been soaked overnight, and they start to take on that slight sort of gelatinous quality. They can be added in. You can use things like aquafaba. You can use things like fruit purees. Things like apple puree or date puree will just add to that slight thickness. The main setting agent for this is the flour we're going to be using and things like cocoa powder. So you don't need to use the eggs if you don't need to. So once we've whisked this sugar up, it's nice and light and fluffy, we're going to add the egg or the aquafaba in. So we're just going to scrape down to make sure that all of that butter and sugar is incorporated. Definitely recommend using something like muscovado because you've already got those really rich sort of caramel, toffee-like flavours going into it. So next you're going to take flour, cocoa powder, we've got some dried cinnamon, some dried nutmeg. You can put any other sort of mixed spice, Christmas flavours in there if you want. We've also got the zest of an orange going into there. A little at first.
Oh wow, that hits you straight away, doesn't it, Chef?
Yeah, I mean the richness from that cocoa powder already, you're getting those sort of rich flavours of chocolate. It's always worth just taking your time with this, not chuck all the flour in one go, get it nicely incorporated. That's all been incorporated. You get that wonderful hit of chocolate coming out of that. Here I have some dried fruit. I've got chopped apricots, I've got some chopped dates, and I've got some chopped figs. And they've been marinated for 24 hours in some dark rum and some port. and the juice of the orange I zested that went in with the dry ingredients. It's really important when you use this, you don't overly mix it. You don't want to puree all this down. You want some bite to it. You want to be able to see the fruit that's in there. So we're just going to stir that up just to invigorate it a little bit. We're going to let the mixture down with a little bit of liquid. In here we have some stout. You can use a porter, you can use any good, Christmas sort of stouts, those kind of flavours. Just to, again, add that richness to it. If the mixture's too tight, it's going to get mashed up with the beater and it's going to start to break down. So just let the mixture down a little bit. So I'm going to fold the rest in by hand because I think it's just a little bit more sort of controlled. Thank you, Chef.
You are welcome. It smells incredible.
So you can see we've got this slightly thick batter-like mixture. Doesn't want to be too tight, and you certainly don't want it any wetter than that because you're going to add all that fruit into it with all the ports, with all the rum. So that's all going to go in one go. That's going to be followed up with the chocolate. We've got some dark chocolate, we've got some white chocolate, just broken down into small pieces. Again, you don't want it ultra fine, just want it enough, just have a little bit of shape. That's just going to be mixed in to incorporate it throughout the mixture.
That is Christmas in a bowl, Chef.
Big, big hit of chocolate there. Very aromatic. The ground cinnamon and the spices, and of course the ground cardamom. So you get that nice perfumed, slightly sort of floral fragrance coming out of it. So that's the consistency you want. Everything coated, everything folded in. I haven't added the rest of the liquid because you don't need to. It'll be too loose, it'll be too wet. Next thing we do is going to bowl them up. Just got some plastic bowls. I like to do these as a couple of portions. You wouldn't do a whole one. This would be far too much for one person, but for two people this would be perfect. Probably actually feed 3 people. It's a very rich, very decadent pudding. We're just going to get a little bit of that mixture in. You want to be generous with it. Fill it up. I've used normal silicone paper. There's no need to grease it. There's no need to put anything on there. Make sure you scrape it out properly. Don't want to leave any behind. I've then just taken a small piece of greaseproof just to place on top. You don't want to press this down too much because when it steams, this mixture is going to expand. If it's trapped down, it will start to ooze. You want to leave a little bit of space in there. Take a piece of foil. I'm just going to place it over the top and then start to draw it down and underneath here. And then again, it's important that it's secured. Just slightly even it up so it's not lopsided in the steamer. And then for just an extra bit of strength, we're just going to put the second piece over the top. There's enough room in there that when it cooks, it will be able to expand a little bit, but it's also watertight. You don't want to get this flooded with water when it's in the steamer.
So would you cook these on the day, Chef, or would you reheat? How would you reheat them if you had cooked them already?
I think if you were going to cook these in advance, they're going to cook for about 2 hours, 45 to 3 hours. If you're going to reheat them, you could do it again in a steamer, just to reheat. Or potentially you could do it in the microwave if you were pushed for stove space and things like that. It will reheat in the container. Obviously, if you're doing it in the microwave, take the foil off. But this will reheat perfectly just sat in the pot with the greaseproof paper over it. These can be done way in advance. So you could do these at least a good week before Christmas. Bring them out. If you're going to do that, then you can feed them. Just keep them a little bit of rum, just to keep them happy, right up to when they're cooked. These are ready for the steamer now. These are going to go on top of a stove in a saucepan, just covered with a foil lid for about 2 3/4 to 3 hours. So I've taken this pudding out of the steamer now. It's been steaming for 3 hours. I can feel the top, it's risen slightly, so I know it's cooked. Prior to steaming it, I just secured the top with a piece of string. Be careful when you're doing this, there might be some trapped hot water underneath. Peel that away. And just as you take it off, you get that amazing aroma, that chocolate, cardamom, and just that little hint of orange coming through. So you've got the pudding. Rather than try and take the pudding and tip it onto the plate, make life a little bit easier for yourself. Take the plate to the pudding. Just tilt it to get your hands underneath. And then just turn it over so it's nicely centered. You can leave it like that while it's warm. Then you just literally take the bowl off and just peel away that paper.
Wow.
And it should just fall away. As I said, there's no need to oil this or grease this. Straight away you're hit by that aroma again of chocolate, cardamom, orange, beautiful classic flavors. Your pudding is now ready. Now you could flame this if you want. If you've used rum in it, so it makes sense to use rum. But we're serving it with this amazing butterscotch sauce that Mark's been making. And we have some raisins that have been soaked in rum overnight just to garnish with. So I'll let Mark finish it off.
So over with the sauce, and it's Christmas, guys, be generous. You could even pierce the top of the pudding and let that wonderful butterscotch sauce permeate the pudding itself. And again, just for that Christmassy touch, we'll finish it off with these wonderfully macerated fruits. And it just hits you, that smell. A little bit of the liquor. And there you go. I'll let Chef Paul close that one off.
So there you have our alternative to a Christmas pudding, a chocolate and cardamom pudding served with a rum and raisin butterscotch sauce.